A very hearty good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Merchant Chambers of Commerce and Industry, I welcome you all today to this very interesting part of the MCCI Leadership Series, the Ideas for India at 100 series that we have. And today I'm delighted to invite our guest, Shri Arun Misra ji. Thank you, Misra ji, for accepting our request and spending and sparing your valuable time from your schedule for this conversation. Before I move forward, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Mr. Arun Misra to all of you. He is an alumnus of IIT Kharagpur, and of course, we all know the CEO as well as the whole-time director of Hindustan Zinc. Prior to this, he was the vice president of raw materials at Tata Steel. Arun Misra ji has 31 years of vast industry experience, and he also happens to be a very avid reader as well as a sports lover. He is the first ever Indian chairperson of the International Zinc Association, and last year he was awarded the CEO of the Year in the Business Leader of the Year Awards. So, heartiest congratulations to you, Arunji, for this award. Friends, as India celebrates 75 years of independence and we reflect on the achievements made so far, we must also envision our journey for the next 25 years and lay down a detailed, well thought out roadmap for the future. We need to chart out a path to attain greater heights and achieve global leadership position. There is an urgent need for detailed deliberation to figure out the right policies and the right levers for inclusive and sustainable growth with benefits accruing to one and all. Against this backdrop, to discuss and deliberate on the way forward, MCCI has launched this flagship initiative, Ideas for India at 100, a leadership series with leaders from different walks of life to share their vision and perspective on India at 100 and formulate a roadmap for the future. The leadership series would deliberate on several topics like harnessing innovation, manufacturing for the future, sustainable development, opportunities and action, empowering MSMEs for growth, nurturing startups and shaping the next-gen businesses, attracting export-oriented FDI, and integration into the global value chain. Friends, with these few words, now I'd like to invite our guest, Shri Arun Misra ji, to share his initial thoughts, following which we will, of course, I know I have some questions myself. I have gathered some questions from some of you. We will have some detailed discussions with Misra ji. But before that, Misra ji, your initial thoughts on the current scenario, the economic scenario, and of course, the big idea, India at 100. Over to you, sir.
So fantastic. Thank you, Rishabh ji and Shogat for welcoming me. As you look at the current state of the world, you have to go back by about 5-6 years to see what were the key factors which changed the world. And we are today in a situation, none of us know what direction the world is going to take. Post 1980s, world was very much comfortable after the WTO agreements. World had a particular way of doing business amongst the countries. Of course, China brought in a special economic zone concept adopted by many countries around the world. Free trade zones were established. But nevertheless, it was, and there were, of course, various countries within themselves or in groups of countries, various treaties dictated trade and commerce, although under the overall ambit of the World Trade Agreement. And that was maintaining the balance in trading of goods, and that had a model which said that goods will be produced where it is most efficient to produce, and goods will be consumed where huge market is there to consume. So that paradigm saw a lot of business outsourcing. So business got outsourced to countries where it was most economical to produce. China grabbed that opportunity, became a manufacturer for the world. The rest of the world, mostly the developed economies, suddenly saw an opportunity of getting rid of various polluting old manufacturing industries. And while China and the other countries, Taiwan, Southeast Asia, were coming up with modern factories, modern mills, more environment compliant, and putting all the manufacturing there where the world shipping and world logistics became more affordable. to such extent that the shipping costs were so low that many times the land cost in big countries like India to move from one end to another was much more than moving them through the ship, through the coastal routes. So coastal transportation became a reality, seaborne transportation became much more affordable, and everything was smooth and going happily. Countries were progressing, and all of us saw that most of the countries recorded plus 3 to 4% in developed economies, and in emerging economies, anywhere between 6 to 8% of growth rate, and at times India, China have also recorded about 10-12% growth rate as well. Comes Donald Trump, and then also Donald Trump backed by a new movement across the globe, where first every country or every nation started talking of their interest first. That first is priority is we survive, and then we'll look at what happens to the rest of the world and the economy. So things like which were running by precedents that this is the way to do business was taken aside, and countries started saying, what's in it for me? Did I gain in this new global environment? If I have not gained, let me change the policies and take care of immediate needs of my people. And that movement started spreading like wildfire across the group, and you had every country talking about, let me protect my interest first. Whatever happens in the global economy, I am not worried. So everybody earlier in the global economy, they had thought that yes, there will be some temporary sacrifice by every country, but in the long run, every country stands to gain from the global economy. So let's go global. Suddenly, people were coming back saying, no, let's be local. Let's take care of our business, our people to get job, our people to get food, our agricultural, our farmers to get more money. So it is our, and that's how the world economy started falling apart. And then comes the COVID, which absolutely kills it. And post-COVID scenario, although the economies have come back, but the world order is broken even now. And then the Russia-Ukraine thing happened. So now the world doesn't know whether the world will ever go back to the earlier regime of doing business across the seas around the globe. It is a very difficult time. It's a juncture in which nobody has an answer to the future. Everybody is trying to stargaze. But hopefully, good sense will prevail and new world order will arise. People are having doubt about what would be the trading currency across the globe, which was undoubtedly US dollar earlier. Now, not so much undoubtedly. There are little bit of doubt whether US dollar would be the trading currency, or there would be alternative currencies, or groups of nations would have their own trading currencies amongst themselves. The concept that Euro brought to the rest of Europe may become a regional reality in many parts of the world. So this is a new paradigm, and people are still trying to understand. We are also part of it. We are not left alone. And I'm sure the way the governments are taking steps, there is much more confident move as far as India is concerned on strategic priorities. There is a lot of confidence in Indian politicians and the Indian bureaucrats who are telling the world that we are not ashamed to say that our interests are first, and we would deal at equal level, keeping our interest first in our own thinking, which is a nice way to redefine the global diplomacy that has been done. And now let's see how much is the gain to us. We still have a lot of negative sides in our economy, that we are not self-sufficient, although we have huge reserve of petroleum, but we are not self-sufficient. Huge amount of foreign currency goes in importing crude. So there are immediate need for India to look at how to explore further, completely privatize and allow more players to come in and make the country self-sufficient. Petroleum is concerned. We need to be self-sufficient in aviation services are concerned. We still don't produce aeroplanes the way other countries produce. And if you don't produce aeroplane yourself, you won't produce lot of defense products that you need for protecting the borders. So that brings us little bit of difficulty or compromise in our diplomatic ability to negotiate with the world. Then climate change is causing a concern. In India, we are seeing parts of India getting drowned and parts of India getting huge rain, rest of India not getting enough rain. We have a population pressure. We have a increasing youth who are educated. They are looking for jobs. We have to provide jobs for them. Traditional industry, which used to be must provider of job, are not able to provide so many jobs. New forms of economy has to come. IT and software were the very large sector job provider for last decades. Textile was once upon a time, so was steel and other sector. Now something new, which in my opinion, green economy is something that can be new provider of jobs and large scale jobs in renewable powers and green economy that we can build. So that is new thinking is required at this juncture, as the world is still confused and doesn't know which way to move. We have to find out our way, maybe start in becoming more regional, that is look at China, Russia, Southeast Asia and grow our business and relationships there. And then maybe look at how do we do business with Europe and Southern, North America, South America and other continents. So it's a very interesting time. And I'm not the expert, but I feel whatever little I read, that stargazing at this time, nobody knows the answer, but everybody thinks that regionally people will resolve their problems and come back.
Thank you, sir. That was very insightful. You touched a whole broad spectrum of issues, and I mean, it's obviously that crystal gazing is not really, even at the best of times, it is a very hazardous occupation. And right now, given the flux in which the world scenario, the world economy is, I mean, one thing that COVID taught us was that, I mean, who would have imagined that the whole world will come to a standstill for days and weeks? This is stuff of, I think, science fiction movies, that you look at these things and then suddenly you have a situation where roads are empty and people are at home and whatnot. So I think, of course, nobody can predict the future, but some of the things that you mentioned about self-sufficiency and where we want to see India at 100 and where we think we need to, what are the things we need to work on to be able to reach where we would like to reach, given a scenario 25 years hence. But sir, I mean, before we continue with this really big picture that we have started talking about, something about your journey. You've had a very long, illustrious career, of course, with the Tatas, now with the Hindustan Zinc, which is one of the world's largest integrated producers of zinc. And the company has been at the forefront of this commodity cycle. It's been in the news and it's been at the forefront of the commodity cycle. What would you also like to see the overall scenario, you think, with the commodity cycle that is in front of us? Because today it is a crucial aspect of the growth story that India has. It can make or break our growth story. So your own journey and your immediate reactions to the scenario that is happening around us, specific to zinc and of course to all commodities in general.
We had a huge upsurge in commodity prices about few months back. Of course, it was first triggered by Russia's military ventures into Ukraine, gas supply being to the Europe being cut off or being uncertain, world not being sure whether they would have adequate fuel to run their businesses, and a lot of uncertainties, and that pushed up cost, huge inflation in US, and there's an European inflation. And as we speak also, there are mines and some of the smelters, at least in zinc business, I know we have come to close. Then there on the steel side, world over, the prices started increasing because the coal prices would increase. Russian coal it found difficult to trade in the market, in the open market, and then the demands were more. So post-COVID, where there was a resurgent economy, during that economy, then supply side there was a disturbance because of the Russia-Ukraine thing, and then it pushed. And at the same time, there was a huge shortage of containers across the globe, which got stuck at various ports especially in US, which were containers that were stuck in the land part of US could not go to the ports, and because of the quarantine requirement could not be cleared in time. So all that pushed up the commodity prices across the globe, and that has started easing now. But that also made us understand that if we have to grow our economy and become $1 trillion of economy, 5 trillion or 10 trillion, whatever we speak of, perhaps we cannot be so much dependent only on imported commodities, be it coking coal, be it crude oil. We cannot be. We have to find our own solution. I don't know what could that be, but one thing is for sure, we have to throw open the mining sectors and ensure that quick production of mineral inside the country, whatever we have, as much as we have. Government has tried to help the cause by making modifications in the MMDR Act twice or thrice in a span of last 6 years. Fabulous work done by the government of India. But then final implementation on the ground, because of a federal structure between center and state and so much of land related issues, the implementation on the ground has to be equally fast. If that happens and we start producing our own mineral, India has no dearth of mineral. Any 1 year talk about whether it's copper, whether it is iron ore, whether it is coal, everything is there. So we have to increase the productions in our own way and then get them out into the market and consume ourselves. So on the commodity side, I can see a prospect of being less dependent on imported commodity by throwing open the mineral sector as quickly as possible. There are huge resources locked up in few steel plants. Perhaps those are also, it's time to decentralize them and make it available to more entrepreneurs to invest and increase the production. There is also requirement of, as I said earlier, also freeing up the crude oil production in the country. There is requirement of freeing up the atomic minerals in the country. If the country has to progress and the country has to become green, it's not that only solar or hydro will be useful for being green. A lot of nuclear power India needs. We should not forget China today thrives on at least 14 or 16, if I last counted, nuclear power plants. France has huge number of nuclear power plants. And with all safety records, they are as safe as any other power plants anywhere in the world. If India needs to grow faster, it has to put up 2,000, 3,000 or 5,000 megawatt nuclear power plants. And that can be done if we decentralize or privatize more and more uranium production, more and more thorium production or atomic minerals production. Government has come out with some amount of easing the rules for atomic minerals, but throwing open the mines for private production is needed, which will produce huge amount of energy without polluting the atmosphere. And then that amount of energy can drive Indian industry. And I see a good prospect there. I'm sure government is fully seized on this subject and we will see more reforms coming in future in this. You are on mute, Rishabh-ji.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. See, I agree with what you're saying, but now, of course, Atmanirbhar Bharat is an idea. It's a strategy. It is a concept which we will have to. But also, as a nation, we have some limitations which pull us back. According to you, what would be, of all the ideas that you just mentioned, be the top 3 priorities which are imperative for us to work on? Of course, the government has worked towards pushing opening up mining, but we've also seen the other side of the story where there's been so many challenges. Today, we had one whole round of cancellation of mining leases, which created its own bubbles and challenges for the industry. And even today, I think in certain segments, they're still struggling with some of these things. So where do you think, which would be the 3 big things? We have to also prioritize. Everything is good to have and needs to be addressed sooner or later. But which would be the top 3 priorities according to you, which needs to be seized at the moment?
See, at the root of all these, the difficulty that government of India or the industrialists or investors face is our traditional definition of center-state relationship. what was defined in the Constitution in 1947 or 1952, when the constitutions were promulgated, may be right at that point of time, because the whole world offered a controlled economy. The alternatives available to us were, there was some free economy in parts of Europe and US, whereas major part of Russia or Southeast Asia had controlled economy. We adopted controlled economy, and for that the center and state relationship, devolution of power, sharing of resources was designed. But just like government came out with GST, which rides over original idea of state collecting its own tax and center collecting its own tax and putting businessmen to difficulty, that has been got over with, and there is a GST, which also has a central GST, state GST function, but it's a GST overall, one tax across the country. So that has eased that effort. We need to look at whether on things like mining, on things like land, could there be something overriding provisions between the state and the center, which will not create this difficulty that some minerals to be done at the state level, a land has to be done at the local level. So perhaps those rules need to be changed, and that will call for some changes in the center state devolution of power. And if they do that, then throwing open mining sector will be much easier. All said and done, although Ministry of Environment and Forest is at the center and give you the environment clearance, but or may give you forest clearance, but you have to come back to state to actually get the land, give the land, get the stage 1 clearance, stage 2 clearance, blah, blah. These are the things, if there can be unified body between state and center for the purpose of making investments turn into assets quickly, in that case, we have to come out with a new model for controlling mines and minerals, controlling environment, controlling forests. So that has to be, if that is done, I'm sure there will be much faster progress, because further relaxation of rules per se does not help anything. What is required is implementation on the ground, how a land will be allocated to the industry, how a forest diversion will be given to the industry, how the permission to start mining in a place will be given to the industry. These are the basic things on the ground that need to be sorted out. That can be done by redefining the power between center and state and creating a common body that only works for investment conversion to assets. And that could be, in my way, the biggest step forward. Like GST, another biggest step has to come. It has to come in terms of rights over minerals and rights over land.
Thank you, sir. I think, yes, that is the big idea. And I think it is us only who are kind of, holding back our potential, which needs to be unleashed. And what you're saying is perhaps the way out, where we need to relook and revisit the way we treat minerals as our national asset and how they are used or exploited for the benefit of the country. Changing gears, sir, as you're aware, this is a, I mean, we have been wanting to discuss with thought leaders like yourself some of the big ideas for India at 100. And one thing which I would like to ask you is, because you are in a position where it's not only about commodities, it's not about businesses, but you're looking at a whole gamut of the emerging opportunities and scenarios. Today's world demands relentless curiosity. There's vigilance required in identifying newer trends and newer creative opportunities. Which are the new trends and opportunities? And I'm not talking about the mineral space or as such, but which according to you will unfold before us in a way where it will take us to this journey from 75 years to 100? Which would be those new trends or opportunities which you envisage is going to be the next big things that India is going to have?
So one area which is clearly visible that it is the next big thing is the green economy, which is the alternative renewable powers, alternative mechanisms, alternative way of fueling, industry. The industrial revolution started with fueling the industrial growth through coal. Then it went into diesel and petrol. Then it went into electricity in a big way. Now, another way of fueling the same industry in a renewable manner is another big area that will throw open new jobs for the rest of the world and new innovations to come in. Completely new innovation. Perhaps we still do not know what it would be, but I am sure innovators will find out the solution, what it would be going forward. Could be that every house that you build, the walls are made of such material that they themselves produce electricity for consumption in the house. Could be new innovation. Could be the glass that you use in the window panes become a communicating surface. They communicate from one place to another place. Because the current set of communication that you have, which is fiber optic based and all that, may be a thing of the past. What will be is a peer-to-peer communication, house to house signal transmission or something. So our new way of feeding the industry or the green economy, in my opinion, is a next big thing to happen. Another biggest thing to happen is the whole world is continuously interacting with each other on the internet like never before. The amount of interaction between the citizenry of the world is happening through various mechanisms, be it e-commerce, be it the social media sites, be it news, be it streaming services, whatever. People are exchanging thoughts and ideas or participating or displaying their behavior. This huge amount of data, which is I think trillions and trillions or terabytes of data, which is there in the world, how to make use of it is also another huge opportunity for new generation kids. I don't see in future kids would be engaged in mines and minerals or industry and things like that. They would all be working on this in this whole cloud of data, sea of data, and mine it and bring out some essence out of it, which itself would be a sellable commodity, or businesses would prosper on that. So that is a huge area to me which will grow in future. The world would also see, new gen economy will also see a huge amount of development on artificial intelligence. This is an area to me is perhaps another next big thing is AI. Would you still require just to give an example, don't misunderstand me, do you still require a lawyer to argue for you in a court in front of a human judge, or a system would argue with another system and give you the judgment that in all considered, and maybe in few minutes you will get the judgment? So, so the whole world would move to more and more. I was seeing lots of videos on doctors almost not moving from their chair and conducting fantastic surgeries without even touching the patient even once. Those are the kind of work that is happening, but it will happen much faster. The pace, the rate of change is much faster. We are now looking at still at a very stage that all of us are looking at. In industry, we are talking about automatic price discovery. If there is a product, there is a cost of production, there is a seller. Why would it? There is a customer. Why would it need somebody to, human beings to talk and set a price? Why not the product fixes its own price based on various parameters that it can do on the internet and get the data from? So like that, price would become automatically fixed, or product changes would automatically become. So that's a huge area on which new generation economy will happen. I'm quite upbeat that old economy of minerals, mining, production, steel, they will continue to remain, but they will be controlled and directed by new generation wisdom, not the old way of working.
Wonderful, sir. I think, you've hit on the bullseye, in terms of the perspective. And one thing that you spoke about was the green initiatives and where the world is going to be headed in those areas. With COP27 approaching, what are your thoughts in terms of ESG measures that Indian industry will have to undertake, and where do you think, what is the road forward in that particular area? Because that is likely to be the big thing moving forward.
See, all I see is, I think Mr. Nitin Gadkari also has spoken about it. I don't see any future for so-called petrol pumps or diesel filling stations that we have. The future would have recharging stations, which could be renewable power backed up, recharging stations, which will be recharging vehicles. 5 years hence, perhaps, buying a petrol or a diesel car will make you unsocial element. People in the colony perhaps would look at you, what kind of person is this? Like today, if you are in your good society, if you are living, and you don't behave in a particular manner, all of the whole society kind of looks down on you. So tomorrow the world is coming when the whole society will be EV based cars and you are the only one. So I am seeing in 5 years hence, perhaps Indian roads will also be ruled by EV cars. The development is becoming very fast. I saw in Hong Kong, I think 90% of the taxis are all EV cars only. There are no taxis which are on fossil fuel. So I see those as an area that we can see major changes going to happen. Also, we will see a lot of new modifications in the way services are rendered to people as a citizen. You won't be going to like we don't go to bank nowadays. For last 10 years, people don't go to bank. People get every banking done sitting at home or while on the move. Many other government services, you won't have to go to government offices. Many state governments have started it. I am saying that's the right way to go to it, that as a citizen, you will get services without going to any government office. Government is, faceless, faceless income tax, estimation, online submission. You don't meet any officer, don't meet any department. So those are the kind of changes that is going to happen in this country going forward, and I'm quite upbeat on
that. Another, on a similar lines would be, I agree that technology is going to change very, very fast. But what do you think how will old traditional businesses reimagine themselves? Say, when we as an economy has to move forward, if India has to reach the potential and the goals which we aspire towards, it will have to take along everyone, and rapid advancements of technology and shifting behaviors has, while creating new business models, disrupted quite a few models. So what would be your perspective and advice to traditional businesses on how they can adapt to this extremely fast and extremely changing scenario, which a lot of people may totally find themselves at sea with?
I'll tell you, when I look around, I see people, the small businesses have already adapted without making a noise about it. I see many, at least in Udaipur, I'm sure in many cities, you have now new restaurants, new generation restaurants, which don't have a floor space for eating in. They are all geared towards Swiggy and Zomato. So their online rating is excellent. Their cooking of the food is excellent. Online rating is very good. But if you go and you never seen that restaurant, but you are eating food out of that restaurant by ordering online. When you go to the restaurant and see, it's a very small restaurant. It only has a delivery counter where the Swiggies and the Zomatos line up and take the delivery. And they are making huge business. So they have adapted themselves to this online lifestyle. That restaurant doesn't mean I need a floor space, I need waiters, I need tables and chairs to be cleaned and blah, blah. They have understood the core of a restaurant is the kitchen and the chef and cooking. That's a restaurant. Rest, the online, this system will take care. So similarly, there are so many small businessmen I see who are connected to sellers on Amazon or the other platforms. They don't have a big factory or a big shop, or they don't even have a big boutique shop. But they're making a lot of money by selling through these platforms, making use of the platforms. On the other hand, also I see there are SMEs who have their own websites and also they are selling through the Facebooks of the world. So I see so many products which is coming to you triggered by AI. When you are scanning through the Facebook, the product is coming to you. Those products you are not normally aware of as a big brand. But through those Facebook pages and Instagram pages, they are becoming big brand by themselves. And they are having their own, So then I think this MSME concept, which was with the old generation who are born in 50s and 60s, will go away with the new generation kids. They will not call themselves MSME, but they will call themselves startups and entrepreneurs who will, with a very small floor space, will have a huge turnover and a good business. And the new gen kids are adopting this business model much faster than the old generation people. Like in my generation, I still believe that a product has to be manufactured through assembly lines. People have to be working. I need to shout. Somebody, accountant has to be there. Invoices to be printed. Then only there is a business. But new gen kids don't believe that.
True, sir. But I mean, I understand what you're saying, but there is a generation between the new gen and the very old gen, which is not yet ready to retire. It is very uncomfortable with the changing scenario and the way technology is. But I think adaptability is the only way out. I mean,
There's no other way out.
one has to change with times, and I don't think there is
There
any
is
other.
no other. There is no other way out. Either you change or you perish.
Absolutely, sir. It's not a very pleasant thought, but it's a reality we will all have to face. I think all the scenarios and all the developments around us indicate that. So the quicker we are at adapting, the better it is. There's a question in the chat box. Sunil Untaji wants to ask you, sir, auto price determination, how is it likely to work?
See, it's what determines a price. First and foremost of the theory is the demand and supply. Second, the benchmarks across various places. The fact that e-commerce is happening and every shop nowadays, 90% of the shops have the billing counters where you are transacting through credit card or Paytm. So there is a trace of the price at which you are paying. And that's a huge amount of data. That data itself would tell you the demand in suppose I am selling something in Calcutta. In Calcutta, in this specific zone, the demand is so high, you can increase the price by another 20 rupees. But the same system can tell you in Jalandhar, this particular product demand is less and you need to reduce price by 20 rupees. So it's all about data mining and that using the data to develop an insight and then tell you. And I know people are working on many AI-based technology in price determination. Like in case of, say, I have to sell zinc. If I have to sell zinc, I have to look at various benchmark prices of zinc which are available in the public domain. Also, I need to look at last transactions that have been done in the various metal exchanges. Through that data, I should be able to predict what is going to be the price of zinc in next 30 days time. Then I can plan my marketing accordingly. So those are the new kind of work that's happening on the digital front on the price determination.
Sir, you spoke about price determination and zinc. On similar lines, I have a question on the chat which says, and I'm not personally a zinc user, so I could be a little off in understanding this question, which is that you all sell zinc in India at LME plus 160, and on top of that charge 5.5% import parity duty, which makes it roughly 170, while in countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, which do not have any internal zinc, they pay US dollar 160 premium above LME prices. I mean, the question here is, what is the role of companies like yourselves? What role they should play for India at 100 to make sure that downstream users are globally more competitive? This is, of course, not the right forum to ask this question, but since
I will not go specific on Hindustan Zinc and the pricing systems. I will rather say in economy, let's all believe that the demand supply or the free economy will determine its own prices and its own way forward. The moment we try to control things, the more problems it will arise, right? If you allow free economy to survive, you will find that if nobody and if zinc is freely available across the globe everywhere at a price, do you think anybody can charge anything extra over other than serving? So that's not possible. So free economy has to be guaranteed, and the idea of any governance should be also overall to provide as much free economy as possible. But saying that if government makes everything free in the country, then you will find most of Indian producers are at a loss. Then also there is a problem, right? So I think government takes a cautious step. Somewhere they put import duty, somewhere they put export duty, and try to protect Indian manufacturers. I would leave it at that. I will not comment on exact pricing of zinc and how it is done. It will be unfair. This is not the right forum.
Sir, changing gears on a different question, because you are integral part of the big business of India, the hardcore old business of India. to be a $40 trillion economy by 2047, which is some of the targets which have been set, we need to increase our exports manifold, and for that, our participation and integration into the global value chain is integral. How do we therefore attract more export-oriented FDI? And how do we also encourage MNCs to manufacture in India for the world?
See, there are two things. In Singapore, they have the Lee Kuan Yew University, which was actually the start of ease of doing business was done by that university. So they started rating very many countries on the difficulty of doing business, and from that rating only, the whole world started doing ease of doing business and the ranking. And then Indian government also started, easing many rules and regulations for that. So I have listened to them in one of the lectures. They said that to get a good investment, don't run after the investor. Just like suppose I have to have a great horse racing done in India, I need to make the best race course. I need to make the best stadiums to have a great tournament in India. But if I, without making the best race course, if I go after the horse owners that please come to India and do a race, they would not come. Similarly, for industry to get more MNCs in India, we have to set the systems of working in India. What are their concerns? One of the concerns is huge delay in litigation in India. So suppose they have a dispute. Does the dispute get resolved quickly? So we have to work on that litigation front. Second, land. Is there any clarity on land matters? Or, like once they pay for that land for 100 years, they will never be disturbed on the land. That we have to clear. Third, are there infrastructure available for putting up a business? It cannot be said that if you come to set up a factory, you have to get the electricity line, you have to get the water line, you have to do the township for your people to stay. They get put off. When they go to China, China gives them entire city is already made and empty for you. You come and take so many housing blocks, electrical powerhouse is ready here, transformers are installed, you just come and put up a factory. So we have to have industrial infrastructure ready for MNCs to come in. If we just believe MNCs will come in by one-to-one relationship, perhaps we are going for the horses, but we are not building the race course.
Yes, I agree, sir. And there's a question in the chat. Our neighboring countries are in financial trouble. What impact do you think it will have on the future of India, and how do you envisage the future India at 100, given the neighborhood scenario?
Very difficult to comment because every country follows their, and what went wrong, I didn't do a deep analysis. I should not be quick to jump because of these or because of that happened. And all of you will appreciate also when on the television we are seeing the country was in turmoil, their cricket team was actually playing cricket also. So it's not so that the doomsday, that the country is completely finished. It's not so. They were running on a lot of businesses were running as usual. So in what can happen? Every government has to set its priorities right. There will always be a demand for taking care of people, of the citizens who are not so fortunate. They need some protection in getting a job, protection in getting health services, protection in getting education. That is required. At the same time, also has to have a huge competitive economic spirit that everybody tries not to depend on government for earning, but they enable skills and they use their skills to set up jobs. Like if you are in US, you would say that if somebody is intelligent, he should be able to make money out of his intelligence. But in India, we try to worship a person by saying he's intelligent but very poor. It cannot be both ways. If you are intelligent, you should be able to convert resources into money or do something. So I think that this particular government last about 7-8 years is trying with their best to build this notion in people that instead of looking to government for jobs and all that, you start using your brain, your capability, whatever skill you have to generate wealth by doing something. And in that process, of course, when you generate wealth, more people get employment. I think that is the right way to go. If we go forward, we have to balance our fiscal budget. We cannot be going in one endless pit where we don't generate wealth, but we keep spending wealth. Second, if we get in any loan from any foreign country or we get FDI, we have to look at how much of that is converted to physical assets. Have we built more bridges? Have we built more railway line? Have we built more dams? Have we built more factories? Have we built more powerhouses? How many of them gets into more and more physical assets so that it can support the growth of the economy? And last but not the least, we have to, all said and done, everybody loves to live in the past, but our new generation has to be more and more digital educated, so that they can make use of the digital platforms that we have. Perhaps, of course, I am not saying history is not important. History is also equally important. But perhaps in today's world, I would spend less time on studying Temurlang rather than study Power BI tools, which can help me to make few more software apps which I can sell and make money.
It's wonderful and refreshing to hear these comments from someone who comes from a old economy mining business and who is talking about technology. But on a different note, sir, today even how consumers interact with their brands, how we buy. You mentioned about Amazon, and there's a huge amount of change in terms of how brands are perceived, how business is done, how sales happen, how marketing takes place. But say in a totally old school business of say extracting and marketing and selling zinc or any other mineral, where do you see that changing? I mean, in terms of how you envisage the future is going to be. Is zinc going to be, I mean, can we buy zinc as easily as we buy, say, a toilet paper on Amazon? Or will marketing change? Or what is it going to, what is the big idea in traditional commodity business, for example, or any other traditional business, as a matter of fact?
So the world is, the people, once they have tested, whether Amazon or Flipkart or all these, the same people, when in the office they are asked to buy zinc, they cannot mentally accommodate that, on one side I am buying all my costliest dresses online, on this side I am, raising indents and somebody is giving quotation and negotiating. It cannot happen. So we are very clear, we have to be on the e-commerce platform and sell everything through e-commerce only. So we have put up Vedanta Mart site, and through that we are interlinked. Almost 30% or 40% of our business has already started through online auction route. So there could be two options. One, we put up the live price ourselves, or we put up metal and let people who want to buy, let them quote a price. Whosoever quotes a price closer to our target takes it. So both ways are right, but we are putting everything on online buying. We are also connecting online buying to online logistics, that customers can choose selected logistics partner to deliver, so that customer does not have to interact with any human face for buying anything. The moment, because to me that's a waste of time and energy, like two human beings, when I have the zinc and somebody needs the zinc, what is the point that the customer's procurement department and my marketing department spends 20 days discussing what should be the price? Makes no sense.
Thank you, sir. Interestingly, we also have people who have logged in from Thailand for this thing. Of course, they have posted a question. I'm not sure whether this is the right forum to ask this question, but it is about visa on arrival. So unless you want to answer this question, I think we should.
I appreciate Thailand, where you get visa on arrival. I think last I went, it was 1,000 baht or something was the charge that one is. But otherwise, yeah, I think government of India is also looking at it. I'm sure they would do that, because this government that we have with Prime Minister, they are very clear that we have to make life easier for tourists, people to travel. And I'm sure we should have visa on arrival, if you ask me, and I'm sure it will happen.
So another question on the chat, which I would like to bring to your attention, is that how do you foresee rural economy to grow in the green economy occupying center stage in the future, as you predict? Do you see a urban-rural divide? Do you think all of India is going to be able to transition smoothly and together, or there is going to be more challenges and more divisions in terms of how the economy functions and how people function, especially between the urban and the rural areas?
So, see, more and more rural area will get urbanized. Nobody can stop it. If you look at India's urbanization, it more and more new B grade and C grade cities coming up over time. The cities you were never even heard of maybe 30 years back, now they are sprawling cities with huge amount of economy happening there. And also there is the city limits are ever expanding. More and more rural area are coming into city limits. So that is given. But what I see the other migration happening is more and more educated urban youth are using their innovation, their in knowledge, technology that they have gathered, and they are converting that into opportunities in the rural area. I keep seeing lots of innovators now. I see two management graduates doing fisheries in Bihar. Their live cases were so good, they first time started transporting fish in live condition in big boxes with water so that they get the best price. They discovered that you don't get the price of fish if the buyer knows you cannot take back the fish and allow the dead fish into the same pond again. So they made the transportation arrangement of carrying live fish. Whatever doesn't get sold, they would bring it back and let it again go back to the pond. Now that gave them the power of pricing. And they are getting a, and now if you look at in most of the markets in India, people have started selling live fish, which was equivalent to what we used to see in places like Thailand or other places. So this innovation is also getting into the rural areas. I see lots of new farming. One of my general manager HR from Tata Steel who retired, he adopted farming of bananas in a western Orissa in a big way. In a big way, huge amount of land in a tribal area he purchased, and he made banana plantation. He sent me a paper. He has been recognized for completely no fertilizer, no chemical based banana, which is a, so educated people who have experience of the industry are using their innovativeness into going into rural. I am sure in next 30 years, this will be the trend going forward. We will have more and more youngsters, management graduates, go back to rural area, and then they will pump up the new gen rural economy.
So a question in the chat. What is your opinion on the circular economy policy of the government of India for non-ferrous metal industry and the role HZL in the same in terms of lead and zinc?
It's a part of a mandatory requirement now, because if I am producing primary product and there are residues or secondary products, which if it is hazardous or non-hazardous, I have no business in occupying more areas on the earth just for storing them. So we have to find ways and means. We are looking at, we use so many vehicles in the mines and those batteries get replaced so often. So I'm looking at now how to put up internal unit and do the recycling of lead and recycling of battery. So every country, every industry has to do, and we are putting up a minor metal complex, a big minor metal complex, where all the residues of operations will be treated, and we'll take out further valuable metal from that, be it cadmium, be it copper, be it nickel, be it cobalt, and then finally, which is absolutely non-hazardous residue, will go into cement making, and that cement will be used for construction. So that will be the full circular economy for us.
Thank you, sir. I think almost touching an hour. This has been a very, very speed of a conversation. If you don't, can I still ask a couple of questions, sir? If we can spare the time.
Two questions. We have about 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir. So one question is that the government recently came up with the one brand, one logo scheme for fertilizer intended to control and homogenize costs for farmers. Do you see similar brand creation in largely commoditized businesses and markets like, say, zinc and lead?
Unless point is you have to throw open more and more zinc mines, If there are many producers of zinc in India, then only all these concepts can be. As long as it is like Hindustan Zinc is the only company, then you don't see much prospect of that. But again, as I said, let the free economy rule, right? Any government that comes in to control any economy, finally it has never yielded good result. So let's be aware of that. And suppose we throw open the fertilizer sector, let people produce as much fertilizer as they need. I'm sure that sector will also become, like we are putting up a fertilizer plant in Hindustan Zinc. We are spending about 1,500 crores, maybe another 1.5 years. We'll have the fertilizer unit is up and running. We'll produce DAP and we will be selling. So let, wherever possible, people produce fertilizer, let the market be flooded with that. And then the supply demand will decide the price and farmers will be benefited automatically.
Thank you, sir. And the last question is, how do you think, where do you see new markets and induced growth happening for zinc in India to reach the per capita consumption levels at par with China? And would there be an optimum supply level to keep up the prices, or external forces are to play to have India as a market for commodities?
So first part is demand. Yes, demand is likely to grow. There with the government spending so much of money on infrastructure, and most of the bridges, if they are not galvanized, government cannot afford to repair them every 15 years. We are looking at galvanized railway lines, and government has already accepted that fact that if the railway lines are galvanized, then every year about 15 kilometers of railway lines need to be replaced because they get corroded over the years. So we must have galvanized railway lines. Entire coastal belt of India, the housing sector must use galvanized construction rebars so that the houses don't get corroded from inside. Bombay is a special case. In case of Bombay, if you see the amount of houses being reconstructed is very high. So that is something that government can work on and create more demand. Also, most important is as the civilization progresses, consumption of stainless steel and consumption of galvanized steel for making cars, that increases. In Europe, almost all the cars are made of galvanized steel. In India, it is still not, but I am sure with Maruti has decided almost most of their products in India would be galvanized. So almost every customer should demand galvanized steel made cars. In that case, it will be corrosion free and there's a much longer life. So I have as the civilization grows, the economic status grows, the zinc consumption grows.
Great, sir. And I know we've overshot our time, but I cannot but help asking you a very important question. Our chamber is primarily based out of Eastern India. So what is your company doing with respect to Eastern India, and more importantly, with respect to Bengal? What is the future and where is the crystal gazing happening as far as this region is concerned?
I was born and brought up in Bengal only. I have huge respect for the culture of Bengal and the intelligence of people in Bengal. They missed few decades because of various political activities, but they have all the right attributes to come up and be a shining example as far as industry is concerned. All they need is to decide once and for all. Let us not debate much, but just go ahead and get as much of industry as possible. You see the western part, I am in Rajasthan. Here nobody questions about industry, right? Everybody wants bring in industry, more industry. Everybody comes for job in the industry. I have never heard anybody saying, I don't want industry. You go to Gujarat, nobody says we don't want industry. They say, okay, bring on industry, we want jobs. Bring on industry is the main mantra of all politicians, all the people. The more the investment, the more is everything, looks up. We need to have the similar culture there. I am a big fan of culture and everything, but along with good poetry, good novel, we also need good industry. Both are equally important.
Absolutely. So, sir, any investment plans in this part of the country, or anything that your company specifically is looking at in this part?
No, if you find any presence of zinc in Bengal, I will come surely.
Wonderful, sir. This has been a most interesting conversation. I think this last 1 hour went through as a breeze, and there are I can see at least 6 other unanswered questions, but we will leave that for another time, and we hope that you are going to be here in person, and we'll have the possibility, the privilege, and the honor of having more questions and a much more insightful conversation when you are here. So please also treat this as my personal invitation on behalf of the chamber to please join us and address our members whenever it is convenient for you to be in the city of Calcutta. You have been brought up here, and well, at least in some aspects, Calcutta does not need too much of invitation. So we do hope that you will be able to make it sooner rather than later.
Absolutely, we will do. No
thank you very much, sir. We're really grateful for all your time and all that insightful conversation. Thank you, friends, for joining us, and we will continue with this series with more such interesting conversations and more interesting ideas. Thank you, everyone.